to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome, 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 welcome. And then for those of you just tuned in, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Blaine is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right. Now, I'm assuming that you're listening to either shrmedia.com or you're listening on Spreaker. That only does for something for the ossicles, for the side of your head. Do you understand the word that are coming out of my mouth? Now, if you want to watch, unfortunately, there's only one way to watch right now. YouTube and us, SHR, we're having a bit of a culture clash, if you will. And YouTube doesn't really like us very well right now. So if you want to watch, there is in fact one place to watch, and that is on the SHR Media Facebook page. You can go there right now, quick like a bunny, and you can watch the show. Now, we used to live stream, we used to simulcast Facebook and YouTube. We're kind of in the doghouse with YouTube right now. Oh, BZ, that sounds like a story. Yes, it is. And you're not going to hear it here until we figure it out. I see Mike is in chat, and I see Simone is in chat, so welcome and hello to the two of you. And there are two, count them, two buttery good viewers right now. And having said that, I must insist that I tell you that we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, science, sex, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon, and nothing is sacred because the speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask you is that when you go to the toilet, when you go to the electric winkle chamber, you flush it, make sure all the effluvium goes where it needs to go, not on the floor, get me, and jiggle the handle because that saves us water. Thank you ever so kindly for tuning in. This is the last show of the week for Old BZ. I'll be back next Tuesday and Thursday, and of course be on Sackheads every Wednesday night. Now, interesting about Sackheads. Oh, hello, Mary Brockman. Hello, Dave Milner. And two viewers. And Simone. I like your name, Simone. I got to tell you that. Simone. It sounds vaguely French, like Emmanuel Macron. Let me try that again. Emmanuel Macron. I can never get his name right. Anyway, the French president, that doohickey guy. So it sounds very nice. Sounds very good and alluring, and I'm sure you have, like, cat's eye makeup like this. You know what cat's eye makeup is. In any event, good to see everybody here in chat. This is going to be a Dan Butcher night. Now, Dan Butcher, we haven't spoken to him. I don't think we've spoken to Dan this year yet. If we did, it was very early in January because Dan's been a busy guy. He was going to be here at quarter after. And he let me know that what he does, he's a media mogul, okay? And I don't mean like a hill that you ski over. No, nothing like that. He's a media mogul. He makes millions of dollars a year. He actually let me ride very briefly, only a block, and he put, like, plastic on the seats. I don't know what that means. I really don't. He let me ride one block in his Rolls-Royce Phantom. Because he's a media mogul and he makes a lot of money. They're in Texas, not far from Amarillo. and he owns HP High Plains Media. And Dan said, I'm going to be a few minutes late. I'm working an accident scene. So he's doing his damn media job, okay? Dan has a job, and it involves the media, and it involves Dan placing himself into highly dangerous and toxic situations frequently, just like this one, okay? And then he sent me a message and said, almost home. I should be close to being on time. LOL. LOL. Late online or something. I don't know what that means. In any event, so Dan probably will be calling in. When I just have to tell you that we have a lot to make up for, and BZ's kind of jacked up tonight because there's a whole bunch of buttery political goodness that I think may possibly be cooking off tomorrow. And BZ, I wonder what some of that stuff may be. Well, we're going to get into it with him. I have a couple of articles here that are really stupid. And because there's so much stuff that's been going on recently, I've been wanting to read these, but with all the stuff that's been going on, I really haven't had occasion to read them. And when I tell you the titles of these stories, you'll understand a bit of my reticence. But now, having a couple of things passed, like, for one, the tax bill, here's one of the articles. This is, you should not be shocked, this is from the Washington Post, Robert Samuelson. And you'll love the title of the article because it made me laugh. And that's going to lead to some other things that I've got set up over Twitter. You know what? Here, let's just blow the whole deal right now. I tell you that I customarily gauge my show because I've got sort of an ancient computer over here. The computer that I'm looking at right here is a relatively brand new HP laptop. And that runs the show. The one that's right in front of me runs the show. The computer over here that's on my right runs my show, runs my audio clips, and gives me resources. And I have a good idea what kind of a show it is in terms of how many tabs I have up, which means how many sound cuts, how many pieces of audio, how many articles that I'm going to be reading, because I have to set everything up. And I have to set a lot up in advance, for example, in case Dan Butcher doesn't call in or somebody else doesn't call in. I have to have enough content to go for the rest of the show. So tonight is a 26-tab show. Again, one of the highest tabs that I've had in a long time. And they seem to be getting bigger and not smaller. Anyway, this article is by Robert Samuelson from the Washington Post, the WAPO. And it says, Americans aren't taxed enough. Really, Bob? Really? We Americans are having the wrong debate. Almost all the arguing over the Trump administration's proposed tax cut centers on two issues. Will the tax reduction stimulate faster economic growth? Robert, you didn't see half of this shite coming, did you? Apparently not. And is the proposal too generous toward the wealthy and too stingy toward the middle class and the poor? Interesting questions, to be sure, but mostly irrelevant to the nation's long-term well-being. The truth is, we can't afford any tax reduction. Okay. Damn! Why didn't I see this coming? Son of a biscuit eater. Okay. Let me go over this again. Why didn't we see this coming? Okay, again, I have to sort of defeat myself. I have to Bigfoot myself sometimes to make this stuff work. Wait! That's Dan, and he's calling early. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'll be honest. I didn't want to read that damn article anyway. I'll get to it. I really will, because the article was entitled, Americans Aren't Taxed Enough, and I will get to it probably next week. And then this is another article. This is an article from the New York Times. Remember I said consider the source. by Steve Phillips that says, "Move left, Democrats." Holy mother of God. Right. Americans aren't taxed enough, and the Democrats need to move more left. So, Dan Butcher, media mogul, I just discussed the short ride that you gave me in your Rolls-Royce Phantom that one time. You had to put plastic down in the seat before you to let me sit down in the car. And I get it. Okay, I get it. You only let me go about one block before you kicked me off, but I understand that too, because you are, in fact, a media mogul. Dan Butcher is quantified by Sackhead Sean as the second best man in the media business. And I call bullshit on that. Dan is the number one guy in the media business. So welcome, Dan Butcher. How the hell are you, sir?
I'm still kind of trying to catch my breath after the Americans need to be taxed more and Democrats need to move further to the left.
Yeah, I know. Does it not break your ass when you hear stuff like that? But you have to consider the source, too.
Yeah, you have to stop and think about this. Could they be moving further to the left? Yeah, they're moving so far to the left they can't even smile anymore, and that was certainly evident on Tuesday night. My God, what a bunch of sour asses!
No kidding, it's so ridiculous. Well, okay, Dan, I'll reveal something that we've talked about this before. Dan and I don't really discuss anything about what the topics will be. And I just call up, or I send a text to Dan, and I say, "Hey, Dan, you interested in coming on tonight?" And Dan says, "Yeah," or "I'm busy," or something like that. And Dan said, "Yeah, I can be on tonight." So here's Dan. But never once really do we discuss anything about what the topics are going to be. And I have to tell you why. And to me, these are props for Dan. Not for me, but these are props for Dan. And here's why. I have confidence. I have every bit of confidence that whatever topic it is that I happen to bring up, and they'll be timely, and they'll be salient and germane to the political world that's occurring right now, today, this week, I have every confidence that when I, transition from one topic to another, Dan knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Dan has an opinion, and Dan is fully informed on the topic, which is why, Dan, I got to tell you, it's so damn fun to talk to you because it's not staged. We don't send scripts back and forth. This is just Dan and me riffing back and forth between all the sorry, that's a line in. All the ridiculous, stupid shite that occurs in the world these days. And you brought up one, so basically I'll kind of Bigfoot myself again. The State of the Union. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. This ridiculous memo that's coming out, I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. We're going to talk about the dossier. We're going to talk about the FBI. We're going to talk about the D.C. swamp. We're going to talk about President Trump. And in the meantime, we're going to try to assemble it all together so that it makes sense to everybody. Because what I'm submitting is all of this stuff, Dan, and I am fairly sure that you agree, all of this stuff is so interwoven and there's so many layers to it, and it's been going on for so long that there almost isn't a portion of the D.C. political swamp or agencies that aren't involved in the dossier, the memo, Trump, Russia, collusion, that aren't involved. I mean, I think maybe the dental board isn't involved, but maybe that's the only one, is the dental board, for God's sake. Well, let's start at the start. Trump had his very first State of the Union address. So your overall thoughts about that, Dan Butcher.
You know what? I thought he did very well. I mean, Trump is Trump. He's definitely not a politician, so he's not a polished speaker. But you know what? He certainly did hit on all the points. He did not back away. He did not back away from anything, and he has done that since day one on the campaign trail leading into his presidency. He hasn't backed away. He says, this is the plan I've put out for immigration, and this is what I want to do. Now, whether you agree with it or not, he did offer an olive branch to the Democrats with the offer of amnesty for 1.8 million dreamers. I'm sure that will be negotiated. Of course, not amnesty, but a pathway to citizenship. Let's clarify that. But so he offered that olive branch. I thought he did a great job calling for bipartisanship. I thought he did a great job putting the Democrats on the spot with lines such as, we work for the American people, and the Democrats sitting on their hands doing absolutely nothing. When he was talking about the lowest black unemployment rate in the history of our country, and of course the Black Caucus sitting on their hands and doing absolutely nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, that should tell you everything you need to know about the Democrats and what they believe in. I thought the line that this was what was funny is, he uses the line, Americans are dreamers too.
Yes.
And the Democrats try to rip him apart about it, but yet Nancy Pelosi, the day after, on Wednesday, tweets out a line saying, dreamers are Americans too. Okay, she didn't get ripped apart for that. Matter of fact, people are saying, hey, that's exactly what Trump was saying. He's saying the same thing,
Well, here's
but the point.
Here's the reason why. It's because Nancy, I firmly believe this to be true. She's got a handler wherever she goes. She's getting less and less lucid week by week. And my guess would be, I'm not convinced that she remembered that from the day prior.
I'm sure. And, she, here's the thing about Nancy Pelosi. If you want to see somebody that, here's the thing, people tried making hey, is Donald Trump crazy? Is he a lunatic with all of this, talk he's doing with North Korea and stuff like that? You know what? Watch Nancy Pelosi's daily press briefing. If you ever want to see a comedy of errors, one after another, where she can't remember people's names, gets people's names completely wrong, doesn't even know about the subject she's talking about, her handlers, her staff members coming up and whispering in her ears to correct her, it is absolutely fascinating to watch how out of touch she is, and how it's about like when they try to will Ruth Bader Ginsburg in for a Supreme Court vote, and they put the defibrillators on her, pop her up. It's about like that. It's absolutely nuts. And of course, it was priceless. The looks on all of them were priceless. But then you saw, especially Nancy Pelosi, looking around every time Trump was looking for a line from to stand up and clap.
Like the
Nancy
hall
Pelosi
monitor,
looking around the room, taking names. The other thing is, if you have not seen the still photos taken from the gallery of the Democrats playing video games on their phones.
Yeah, I saw that.
The State of the Union, it's priceless. Everybody was thinking, well, maybe they're texting out stuff, maybe they're getting information. No, they were playing fucking video games during the State of the Union.
Did you?
And then Gutierrez getting up and stomping out when he was talking about Luis Gutierrez stomping out when he was talking about how you work, how in this chance of USA start in the chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats at this point have I think you're going to see a lot of this video footage and a lot of these still photos used come October and November of 2018.
You should. You most definitely should. Did you watch some of the videos? And I mentioned this last night on Sackheads. There were videos, Manchin, for example, got the hall monitor look from Pelosi. There was a guy sitting next to her who got up slightly as everyone else was applauding. All she did was turn her head glance at him briefly, and he sat his ass right back down. She could not take anyone applauding for anything at all for any reason. And this was perfect. This is why I love it all, because it's perfectly illustrative of how in the tank the Demorats are, and illustrative of they couldn't give one crap less about this country unless it serves their political purpose. To have people succeed fiscally, can't have it. To have blacks succeed, can't have it. To have Hispanics succeed, can't have it, because that will look poorly for them in their midterms, which leads to this question, Dan Butcher. Now that we've seen this kind of stuff going, what kind of feelings do you have for the coming midterms in 2018?
Here's the thing. First of all, I want to give kudos for Joe Manchin for saying F you to the rest of the Democrats. He actually called out his fellow Democrats for being so disrespectful to the president. I also want to point out another incident during the State of the Union, if you didn't see it, and that is when Nancy Pelosi stood up and turned around and lectured in front of everybody, lectured another female Democratic lawmaker for standing up. I mean, it was priceless.
I missed
it. And this lady in particular looked like she was totally pissed off at Nancy Pelosi. Now moving to the midterms. We have 30 members of Congress that are stepping away, that are retiring and not running for re-election. And so, you have to really stop and think, okay, how is this going to look? Who's got the upper hand here? I think the Democrats keep digging themselves for a bigger hole with their actions. I think they are truly, and I have mentioned this before. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever, you underestimate Donald Trump at your own peril. He is able to turn any type of bad situation to his favor. And certainly, I think, a lot of times people like to use the term reboot. A lot of times, you heard that a lot from Hillary Clinton. How many damn times did she reboot her campaign? But I definitely think with this State of the Union address, Donald Trump took his presidency in a whole different direction. He's saying, "Hey guys, this is what you heard. You didn't hear from Donald Trump, me, I. You heard we, bipartisanship. Let's put our differences aside. Let's Republicans, Democrats, Independents. Let's all work together." You heard he was criticized by the ACLU for mentioning this offensive word over 60 times during his State of the Union address. Do you know what that offensive word was, BG?
Well, I know one of the
America.
offensive. Yeah. No, we can't.
America.
Have that.
The ACLU is all up in arms and got their panties in a wad because he used the term America over 60 times. And so, but here's the thing. I think Trump has put everybody on notice. He has, and I kept hearing Nancy Pelosi saying, "Hey, you know what? Donald Trump's doing this, and this." She didn't listen to the speech. Donald Trump directly addressed Congress and said, "You know what? Immigration, here's my proposal. This is what I'd like to see done. Guess what, guys and ladies? It is up to you. This is your job, not mine. You're going to do your job in dealing with." That's why I didn't extend DACA by presidential order. He says, it's time for you guys to do your job right now.
And
it's
own it.
time for you to do your job and end the sequester and fully fund the military. For you to do your job and pass a budget. It's time for you guys to get to work, get off your asses and do something. And I think the Republicans are coming into that, and they're starting to buy that. The Democrats are like,
Nope.
Well, hell, we don't want to have to do anything because, that will cost us votes if we actually have to do something if we can't buy the votes. I think my personal opinion is above anything else, I think this is really strengthening the Democrats, strengthening the Republicans heading into the 2018 midterms. And I'm gonna use this out real quick because I think, and this will kind of tie in when we talk about the memo that's going to be released tomorrow. But I think Agricultural Secretary Sid Miller here in the state of Texas. I know Sid. Sid is a friend of mine. He's very outspoken, and he does it. Let's just say he certainly doesn't mix his words. He says exactly what he means, and I think he had the best statement of the day. He on Twitter earlier today, Sid Miller said, "The Democrats have not been this worked up about the release of anything since Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves." Think about that.
Well, that's absolutely true. That's correct.
It is.
We got about 3 minutes before the end of the hour break that we're going to take. Dan Butcher, let me throw this out there, too. What is it with elderly Demorat women that just won't go the hell away? Hello, Hillary Clinton. Hello, Nancy Pelosi. They don't get it. And let me throw this in, too. The reason the Demorats are here today is because of Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton hadn't refused to transition over to November 9th, and instead she decided that the play to make was I'm not responsible, the play to make was Russia and Trump, none of this shite, I suspect, really would have been revealed. And, of course, can you imagine the lid that would have been kept on all of this had Hillary Clinton been president? So, also, to all of you conservatives out there who still send me emails and tell me that President Trump is a piece of shit, let me suggest this. You really, really would have preferred to vote for Hillary and had nothing of this exposed? Are you that silly, stupid, and fattening? Apparently the answer is yet. 1 more minute. Dan Butcher, go ahead.
Think about this, how scary. Now, and I know we're going to talk about the memo here in a little bit, but let me tell you about the memo and how scared the Democrats are of this.
Oh, God.
They are never on the Democrats are never on the side of the police, of the military. You certainly saw that a lot of times during the State of the Union address, unless they were forced to be very, very painfully did they clap and stand during certain situations. But the fact that the Democrats are defending, here's the thing: the Trump administration they are not, and the Republicans are not attacking the hard-working men and women of the FBI. They're attacking some of the leadership of the FBI and some of the stuff that went behind the scenes under the control of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And let's face it, Hillary Clinton was controlling the Democrat Party at the time. So there's a lot of questions have to be asked. Do I think it's going to be a major big bombshell? No. But I do think it's going to be something that leads in the right direction.
Bingo.
You would have if you listen to the Democrats, Donald Trump is a KGB agent working directly for Vladimir Putin. That's what they would want you to believe.
Right.
But that's not the truth.
He's
the
Putin's
truth
poodle.
is it's the Democrats and the Russians that are the problem.
That's exactly it. As far as the Demorats are concerned, he's nothing but Putin's poodle. Now, we're going to come back. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Dan Butcher, the #1 media guy in the entire nation, certainly in the state of Texas. And I've decided that I am going to go with these articles. I'm going to read both of these things, and I'd like your input as well because, and I freely admit, the one article is entitled Americans Aren't Taxed Enough, and the second article is entitled Move Left Democrats. So, folks, we're going to take a break. And we're going to come right back. I'll have some articles for everybody. Oh, and I'm telling you, we will get into some shite. Okay? Right?
That was easy.
There we go.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American Media Maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reaver of Common Sense, and you're listening to shrmedia.com.
Well, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR sumptuous palatial media studios, about 2 miles that way from the veritable belly of the beast, the horrible Bill Mill, as opposed to the gin mill. Well, I'm sure that probably a number of the politicians that work in the California state capitol are in fact soused when they're crafting these bills and talking in the state capitol. And it's again why I say that I broadcast live and direct behind enemy lines in occupied California. We're talking to Dan Butcher, media mogul, direct live from somewhere outside and around Amarillo, Texas. Now, I told you I was going to read 2 articles, and I'm going to ask Dan at the conclusion for his input on this stuff. I started one of them earlier, so we're gonna go over it again. This is one from the Washington Post by a guy named Robert Samuelson. Americans aren't taxed enough, and it's a fairly short article. But I want you. The reason I'm going to read this article in the next one is I want to give you some insight into the Demorat leftist mind, that of the American Media Maggots as well, and then as Dan and I continue throughout the show, and we talk about the dossier, we talk about the memo, we conclude the State of the Union speech, etc., there will be a light that comes from on high, above, and it goes ding, and you will grok every concept possible. We Americans are having the wrong debate. Almost all of the arguing over the Trump administration's proposed tax cut centers on 2 issues. Will the tax reduction stimulate faster economic growth? And is the proposal too generous towards the wealthy and too stingy towards the middle class and the poor? Interesting questions to be sure, but mostly irrelevant to the nation's long-term well-being. Dan Butcher, he says, the truth is we can't afford any tax reduction. We need higher, not lower taxes. What we should be debating is the nature of new taxes. My choice, he writes, a carbon tax, how quickly or slowly they should be introduced, and how much prudent spending cuts could shrink the magnitude of tax increases. Okay, well, I'm going to stop right there because that's a perfect time for some interjection. And both of the sides are guilty of this shite. I see tax reductions, and I can't lay this at Trump's feet, but I will certainly lay it at the GOP EstabliHack's feet. Where are the cuts? Because this is how deep... You already know, Dan, and I'm going to tell everybody because I'm sure most of the people listening know, but I'm going to quantify it for you easily. As far as the Demorats are concerned, if you don't increase a budget in D.C., to them, that's considered a cut, and they will quantify that as a cut if a budget for a given agency or cabinet does not get more money. Not giving more money to them is called a cut. So when you hear a Demorat say that the GOP or someone is cutting a budget, first and foremost, what that essentially means is you're not giving them more money. Dan, do we need more taxes?
Oh, you bet we do.
Oh, yeah. Tax them all.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. First of all, Democrats have never found it. They've never met a tax they didn't like. I believe in your home state of California. There, you're already taxing cow farts. If I believe that's right. And you've heard them try to pass this type of legislation in other states and stuff. Think about that, folks. Democrats want to tax methane gas. Want to tax hard-working farmers and ranchers for methane gas coming out of their cattle because it's contributing to global warming. That's how asinine the type of stuff, anything and everything they want to try to tax. In the state of Oregon, you're looking at they're trying to start taxing you per mile that you drive. I know you've had some similar proposals in California. We want to tax you per mile. The gasoline tax is not enough. Taxes on oil and other stuff. The taxes that we get to help fund roads and bridges is not enough. No, we need to tax you by the mile and penalize you for driving.
Oh,
Maybe
California wants
transportation.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. And so you see that. Let me give you an example. Now, I'm of the firm belief, not only do I want to see lower taxes, I want to see some serious spending cuts. I think that, and that's why right now you're seeing the United States military all branches are currently undergoing their first full audit in the history of the U.S. military. Think about that. And the reason they're undergoing that audit is they want to make sure that the funding they're receiving is being spent properly. This has been ordered by the Commander-in-Chief, by the Obama administration, by the Trump administration. And so they're doing the first full audit of seeing where all of the spending's going. And we need to hold them accountable. So I'd like to see some spending cuts on top of the tax cuts as well. But I'm of the firm belief. I would also just say, hey, you know what? If I can't get the tax cuts, if I can't get the spending cuts, let's just freeze spending for the next 5 years. You just freeze spending where it's at for the next 5 years. You're going to take a big chunk out of the national deficit, and you'll be able to balance the budget and other stuff like that. But that's a whole other 3 or 4 shows we can do.
Oh my
God!
Let
me tell you, the Democrats, what you've been hearing from Nancy Pelosi and all of the other Democrats, what you've been hearing from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Downer Debbie, and all of this is, you know what, these tax cuts really are insignificant. They're not really going to help the middle class. They're just going to help the wealthy. These tax cuts will just help the wealthy, and they're actually going to, giving poor Americans, lower middle class Americans, an extra $1,000 to $1,500 a year in their paychecks is just crumbs. It's not going to make a difference.
No.
Really? Okay. So let me give you a great example of the difference this makes, and I'm going to use my personal situation. At the beginning of the year, our medical insurance for our family increased by 16%. Okay, a 16% increase on health insurance. That's a pretty good sum of money. But here's what happened. Of course, just this week, when Mrs. Butcher got her paycheck direct deposited, of course, her company started using the new tax rates, lower that would put more money into your pocket, right? Guess what happened? The exact amount of money that was put back into our pockets, thanks to the Trump tax cuts, evened out our increase in our insurance. Think about that.
That's perfect.
My wife got basically a 16% pay raise, and if you want to really think about that, it canceled out the increase in our insurance premium, and so we broke out even. We were not having to pay out any more money for our health insurance, for our life insurance, dental insurance, and all of this stuff, thanks to the tax cuts. And that is where it's going to make a lot of difference when you're not on something like that. That's a big deal to us.
It's a huge
health insurance
deal.
is a big expenditure in our family.
You bet.
And so for that to balance out, oh man, you know what? That was beautiful. Couldn't have worked out, and the timing was beautiful. And the same thing applies to especially lower middle class and a lot of folks in the poorer neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to classify, and I'm going to specify hard-working people that are working for every last dime that they're getting, every last penny. Some people that are working 2 and 3 jobs. Guess what? You know what the difference in that is? That's the difference. Somebody that's working 2 or 3, a full-time job and maybe 2 part-time jobs, they might be able to drop a part-time job and be able to spend more time with their family.
Yep. Or
they might be able to go to school, et cetera, et cetera. That's the difference that it makes in the lower middle-class families, in the poor neighborhoods and stuff. It puts more money in their pockets. Now, why do the Democrats hate Americans having more money in their pockets, BZ? It is less power that they have over the people. The more power, the more money in the people's pockets, the more power they have over their elected officials. It's less control from them.
It's
and
the Frank
Democrats
Underwood axiom.
Less power.
Yep, it's the Frank Underwood axiom. It's all about money and power, and moreover, it's about power. Now, Sackhead's Clint, as a matter of fact, last night said that because of that, his first check under the new the new rate, he noticed a $200 increase in his check. That's in California, for fuck's sake. Now, let me ask you a question, Dan. Do you think someone who works for UPS is, a middle, not necessarily a middle class, but like an upper middle or an upper middle class job?
No.
Okay, there you go. Okay, because
let me tell you something. And let me tell you something, and I'm going to use my personal situation again.
Going somewhere with this.
Mrs. Butcher and I do quite well. We make a good living, and we're very fortunate in what we do, and between the two of us. But yet we have 5 children. Now, of course, if you talk to Democrats, Mrs. Butcher and I are evil people because we have more than 1.5 children.
That's right.
We're actually we're contributing to global warming and overpopulation of the earth because we have too many children. And so it's our own fault. We're penalizing ourselves for that. But hold on a second, BZ. Good night, baby girl. I'm sorry, my daughter walked in here and had to say good night. So anyway,
well, tell her good night.
She had to give me a big hug. So anyway, everybody say hello to Alex. She's always a big part of my
Alex,
radio show.
how you doing?
But anyway, funny we're talking. But basically, in our situation, people. I've had people will say, well, you and Mrs. Butcher are rich. Y'all da-da-da-da-da. Well, really? We're fortunate.
You didn't have to work for that at all, didn't you?
We work our asses off.
No. That just landed in your lap. All of a sudden, you just became wealthy because you're Caucasoid, and that's how stuff go. Now, I went for the UPS thing because this just came out today from UPS in terms of who this really affects because of the tax cuts. From UPS, directly from @UPS on Twitter. We're investing $12 billion to serve you better and more efficiently, and about $13,000 per employee in our company-sponsored pensions. But those are crumbs, right, Dan? Those are just Demorat crumbs. That's so disgusting. That is so disgusting. They think and comment and make statements like that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's another thing. The Democrats absolutely hate seeing all of these companies, giving, because the big argument that the Democrats have is, government needs to ensure that you have probably heard it. This is a big movement that has actually started in your home state of California, and it's called the Guaranteed Living Wage. Let's guarantee people a living wage.
Started in Europe.
And give them a bottom line, a bit of money, and then if we guarantee a living wage, well, then people can get further ahead and stuff like that. Instead of having to, start from the ground up and work your ass off to be successful, let government do it. So government's always the answer, right?
Sure.
And of course, that's where I've always said, the minimum wage should be non-existent. I think market forces are better at dictating wages than implementing minimum wages. There's another 3 or 4 shows that you and I can discuss over the absolute nonsense that is the minimum wage. Now, if you let market forces take care of stuff and companies are able to reinvest in themselves, invest in their employees, here's a bright idea. Bring the trillions of dollars that they have parked offshore out of the country back into the country, and all of a sudden you start to see $1,000 bonuses. You start to see higher wages. You start to see
more employees being hired. More money.
New projects
invested.
How about the project that was announced by Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and J.P. Morgan, where they're going to launch a new company that is basically they're going to get into the insurance business and healthcare business to better serve their own employees as far as their as far as healthcare costs, healthcare insurance, and stuff like that. That's the type of investments in innovation that you're going. That absolutely rocks the healthcare industry and the health insurance industry.
It does.
About that happening.
Let's continue with the article, though.
Yes.
The truth is, we can't afford any tax reduction. We need higher, not lower taxes. What we should be debating is the nature of new taxes, how quickly or slowly they should be introduced, and how much prudent spending cuts could shrink the magnitude of tax increases. To put this slightly differently, Americans are undertaxed. We are undertaxed not in some principled or philosophical sense that there is an ideal level of taxation we haven't reached. We are undertaxed in a pragmatic and expedient way. For half a century, we haven't covered our spending with revenue from taxes. Despite the fact, however, I'm interjecting now, that we have record tax collections the past 3 to 4 years. He continues, of course, there are times when borrowing, that is, budget deficits, is unavoidable and desirable. Wars, economic downturns, national emergencies. But our addiction to debt extends well beyond these exceptions. We have run deficits with strong economies and weak, with low inflation and high, and with favorable and unfavorable productivity gains since 1961, and I admit to having reported this fact before. Federal budgets have been in surplus in only 5 years. Let that sink in. And those surpluses have invariably coincided with long economic booms that swelled government tax revenue. 1969 following the long boom of the 1960s, and 1998 through 2001 reflecting the tech boom of the 1990s. Otherwise, deficits have dominated. From 1990 to 2016, borrowing represented nearly 14% of annual federal spending. Stop just for a moment. You see where this guy is leading? According to calculations made by the nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, that's $1 of every 7. Based on present policies, it's doubtful that things will get much better. Aging baby boomers are inflating Social Security and Medicare spending. Pressures for more defense spending have probably been underestimated. Stop just for a moment. Why is there pressure for defense spending? Because Obama, for example, cut defense budgets and riffed the crap out of everyone. He continues, that same may be true for many domestic discretionary programs. Even with these optimistic assumptions, the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, projects the budget deficit, $666 billion in 2017, will grow as a share of the economy. We resist the discipline of balancing the budget, which is inherently unpopular. Listen to what he says. I resist the discipline of balancing the budget. The U.S. government gets not to do that. I don't get to do that. Dan Butcher doesn't get to do that. It creates the illusion of something for nothing. It's what Eugene Stonerly of the Urban Institute calls takeaway politics. Some programs would be cut. Some taxes would be raised. Americans like big government. They just don't like paying for it. Borrowing is easier. It's largely invisible to most Americans, creating that illusion, as I referenced, of something for nothing. This liberates Republicans to peddle more tax cuts. Their tax cuts would add $1.5 trillion to the debt over 10 years. A more realistic figure is $2.1 trillion, claims the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Demorats are little better. They advocate more entitlement spending despite CBO's estimate of $10 trillion in deficits under existing policies over the next decade. The unspoken assumption that justifies big and continuous deficits is that, according to rhetoric to the contrary, they pose no serious danger to the economy. We can run deficits forever without suffering ill effects. And he asks, can we? Excessive federal borrowing poses 3 theoretical dangers. First, it could raise interest rates and crowd out the private investment essential for higher living standards. Second, it could trigger a financial panic if private investors would no longer buy Treasury securities except at exceptionally high interest rates. And finally, a large national debt could make it harder for the government to borrow heavily during a true crisis. But none of these imagined calamities have yet occurred. Perhaps they never will. There is a theory that suggests just that global investors want so-called safe financial assets, it said, and U.S. Treasury securities are deemed safe. This global demand for treasuries could sustain budget deficits, which produce more treasuries for years. But this is a very dangerous gamble to make because it's lost. If it's lost, the consequences could be catastrophic. At some point, the demand for safe assets may weaken, or too many large deficits may make safe assets seem less safe. A responsible society would not test the limits of what's doable and what isn't. But that's not us. By now, it must be obvious. We are no longer responsible. The urgent need is to plug the huge gap between government spending and tax revenue. Naturally, we aren't doing that. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. What I get out of that is what he's saying is we don't have the discipline for cuts and rational spending. And to a great degree, Dan, I have to say I agree with him. George Bush spent like a drunken sailor, and that's an insult to drunken sailors. Obama kept it going. They decided that all the stimulus packages that they put out and too big to fail, blah, 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 let their asses fail. And we wouldn't have been in this situation right now. We got here because of the Demorats insisting that, hey, we should loosen lending, and people that couldn't afford a tire can now afford a house. It takes 2 people to tango. It takes a stupid lender and a greedy lender and a stupid buyer who thinks that, oh, I can get something for nothing. But the point of this that I'm seeing, Dan, and I'd like to have your opinion next, is he doesn't see discipline. Spending is just fine. You can make a couple cuts here and there, and we can bet against the come all the time. No, we can't.
No, and here's why. Because the higher deficits that you run and the more financial insecurity that you put your country in, like we have seen with the out-of-control spending, not just by the Democrats, but by the Republicans as well, puts our country, it puts the national security of our country in peril. And who do you think owns all of that debt?
It's a security
People
issue.
Don't think. Who is buying all of that debt? Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Chinese that are buying up all of that debt. That puts them and gives them some leverage. Guess what? Will you hear Trump arguing about, hey, we need to have a level playing field when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to trade agreements and stuff like that? That's what he's talking about. We have allowed the Chinese and other countries that have bought up so much of our debt to have a leverage on us, to have all of these just absolutely ludicrous trade agreements that we have right now that put the United States, which, believe it or not, we still have such a large economy, and we do have a large export business, even though we do import a lot of stuff. But it puts us at such a disadvantage because we have such a large deficit. And, of course, Democrats and even a lot of Republicans are, bigger government, bigger government, bigger government. You brought up George W. Bush. George W. Bush left the state of Texas in an absolute financial disaster when he was elected president. People have heard me. Rick Perry does not get the credit that he deserves. For cleaning up George W.'s mess. And let me throw this at you. And I always dumbfound people when I'm talking about this. Here in the state of Texas has one of the largest economies in the world. Okay? And here we are. Our state legislature is a part-time legislature. They meet every 2 years for 5 months out of the year. Think about that. And but yet, when they're done and after they have met during their legislative session, they have a balanced budget. It is state law. We have to have a balanced budget. Let that sink in just a bit. Now, are we perfect? Do we have our problems? Yes, we do. Do we have to deal with some situations here in Texas as far as school finance reform and some other things like that? Yes, we do. But those are, do we have to have a problem dealing with rising taxes as far as real estate and stuff like that? Yes, we do. But those are some problems that we will work on and get a lot of that stuff under control. But let that sink in, especially in a state like California, New York, Oregon, where you have full-time state legislatures completely running the states into the ground.
1 minute, Dan Butcher. We're going to come back after the break. I'm going to read the article, Move Left Demorats. We talked about the State of the Union, but we're also going to transition over after I get through this article, Move Left Demorats. We're going to get into the bombshell, the potential bombshell, and you made a very important but salient and kind of nuanced point, and that is be careful placing too much sway in this memo because it may not be the end-all and be-all. What I would say as a caveat, however, is that memo may lead to, it's the tip of the iceberg, and it may lead to a tunnel that shows you where the rest of the iceberg truly is. Folks, hang on. We're talking to Dan Butcher, the #1 media mogul guy in Texas and perhaps all of the United States, which means perhaps the entire universe, except on the planet Zephron. Hang on, we'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American Maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the unpleasant blind guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just like the last question we cut a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is past the witching hour. It's 9:05 on the left coast. It's 12:05 on the East Coast. It's 1923 and 327.7295 decimal 3 squared in Bolivia. Trust me on that one. I know my Bolivian time, okay? And we're talking to Dan Butcher, he of High Plains Media. And Dan, number one, thank you for coming back. We haven't chatted with you in quite a while. You've been busy. And a lot of things have been going on. But I have this article now from the New York Times called Move Left Democrats. Just when you think the Demorats need to double down on shit that isn't working, here's an article from the New York Times basically saying that, you know what, if you're doubling down, I don't think you're doubling down quite enough. Move Left Democrats by Steve Phillips. The Demorat National Committee will choose its next leader on Saturday, and when it does, it should choose a leader who will resist the pressure to pursue the wrong white people. Hundreds of articles have been written about the imperative of attracting more support from white working-class voters who supported Barack Obama in 2012, but then bolted to back Donald J. Trump. The far more important and largely untold story of the election is that more Obama voters defected to third and fourth party candidates than the number who supported Mr. Trump. That is the white flight that should most concern the next DNC chairman, because those voters make up a more promising way to reclaim the White House. The way to win them back is by being more progressive, not less. To be clear, all white voters matter, but Demorats must make tough, data-driven decisions about how to prioritize their work. Right now, too many are using bad math and faulty logic to push the party to chase the wrong segment of white voters. For example, Guy Cecil, who spent nearly $200 million as part of the progressive super PAC Priorities USA, urged the party to rebuild trust with the millions of white voters who voted for Obama and Donald Trump. The math underlining that conclusion is incorrect. Mr. Trump, by the way, picked up not millions, but only 784,000 white votes in the 10 battleground states. He won by single digits, and it misses the bigger and more fixable problem of white Democrat defections to third and fourth party candidates. Hillary Clinton lost the decisive states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan by 77,000 votes. The number of Democrat votes dropped significantly from 2012 levels, and the Republicans totally increased by about 440,000 votes. The third and fourth party surge, however, was larger than the Republican growth, with 503,000 more people choosing the Libertarian or the Green candidate than had done so in 2012. When you look at that white vote in those states, the picture is even more stark. In Wisconsin, according to the exit poll data, Mrs. Clinton received 193,000 fewer white votes than Mr. Obama received in 2012, but Mr. Trump's white total increased over Mitt Romney's by just 9,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, the Demorats' problem was not with white voters, but with African Americans. Mrs. Clinton actually improved on the Demorat 2012 results with whites, but over 130,000 unenthused black voters stayed home, and she lost by 44,000 votes. If progressive whites are defecting because they are uninspired by Demorats, moving further to the right will only deepen their disillusionment. Listen to this. But if the next DNC chairman can win them back, the country's demographic trends will tilt the field in Demorats' favor. As Mrs. Clinton's popular vote margin showed, there is still a new American majority made up of a meaningful minority of whites and an overwhelming majority of minorities. Not only is there little evidence that Democrats can do significantly better with those white working-class voters who are susceptible to messages laced with racism and sexism, but that sector of the electorate will continue to shrink in the coming years. Nearly half of all Democrat votes, 46%, were not white in 2016, and over the next 4 years, 10 million more people of color will be added to the population as compared with just 1.5 million whites. Oh, we're going to go someplace with that in just a moment. Dan Butcher. Keith Ellison, DNC chairman candidate, has a proven record of engaging core Demorat votes rather than chasing the elusive conservative whites, and the party would be in good hands under his stewardship, aside, though the fact is that Alan Dershowitz said that if Keith Ellison were elected, he would be leaving the Demorat party. Thomas Perez, the former labor secretary, has less electoral history, but his reliance on political superstars is encouraging. Whoever prevails, though we know that it was Tom Perez who prevailed as DNC chair, they must resist. This is important. Whoever prevails as chairman must resist the pressure to follow an uninformed and ill-fated quest for winning over conservative white working-class voters in the Midwest. The solution for Demorats is not to chase Trump defectors. The path to victory involves re-inspiring those whites who drifted to third-party candidates and then focusing on the ample opportunities in the South and the Southwest. In other words, move left, Demorats. Any thoughts about that? Demorats need to move further left. Dan Butcher.
I have a lot to say about this article. Well, let me tell you. I know this article very well. This article is actually from 2017.
It is
prior to the election of the new DNC chair.
Right.
So let's look. Let's take this article and let's look where, since this article was written, where they have moved.
That's my point in reading it. Exactly.
Who is the chair now? Tom Perez, former labor secretary under Barack Hussein Obama, is now the chair of the DNC. The deputy chair is all you need to know. Keith Ellison is the deputy chair. Bill, Bill Durrell is the treasurer. Jason Ray is the secretary. These are hardcore leftists that are in control of the DNC. Look at the politics that they are trying to play under in the way they are attacking Donald Trump. Everything has to do. This is the politics. Everything is politics of racism.
Yep.
The big guy is trying to put down the little guy. You need more government, higher taxes, more taxes. We need this, we need that. Tax cuts are bad. The Democrat. I get sick and I get so sick and tired.
I know.
Every time I turn on the TV or listen to something on the radio, another Democrat. Tax cuts are hurting the poor people. How the hell are they hurting poor people? So just look at how they have moved that direction. Folks, it is kind of ironic. The Democrats, they willed out. You thought during their response, and I was really surprised by their choice of individual to respond to Donald Trump's State of the Union address.
Oh, you just opened a door that I'm going to walk through, and you are too.
Yes. And so here it is. You thought they would probably throw up a high-profile
Kamala Harris.
Pamela Harris. That was actually
God.
That is who I thought would give the response.
Bingo. Yep.
But what do? They roll out the Kennedy family with one. And what do? They put him in front of a car that looks eerily familiar to a certain one that went into a bay driven by Ted Kennedy.
I'm not the only one that noticed that.
Priceless. But they tried to. It was almost like they were trying to mask the fact of how far to the left that they have gone by rolling out the Kennedy family to try to say they didn't roll out the Clintons or Pamela Harris. They rolled out one of the Kennedys, a young, vibrant Kennedy. They looked like they were trying to reincarnate JFK in this situation. But here's the problem with that. It absolutely blew up in their face and bit them in the ass. The guy was slobbering the entire time during the speech and different things like this. He wasn't very coherent in his response. He was given a lot of responses and attacks that would have been more effective coming out of Pamela Harris's mouth and different things like that. So here they are. They're trying to roll back. Identity politics is what the Democrats. That's all they have. They have nothing of substance.
Nothing.
They have nothing to run on. Here's the thing. You were asking about 2018 moving forward. The Republicans. We are looking. We could think about this. In the first quarter of 2018, we could have upwards of 5% growth in our economy.
I read
Think about that. 5% growth. We're definitely going to be somewhere in the 4 to 4.2, maybe 4.5 range is more realistic. But 5 is a possibility. The Democrats are getting absolutely crushed on policy, on economic growth, anything having to do with job creation, having to do with immigration. They're getting crushed. And so they fall back on the politics, their identity politics, you're hurting the poor, you're racist, blah, blah, blah. And what do? They roll out a young white guy to try to get the response.
Could they possibly have found they don't like Caucasoids. Dan Butcher, could they possibly have found a whiter white guy than Joe Kennedy III? He's so friggin' white. Casper stands next to him and looks dark.
And he looked like a typical Kennedy. He looked like he'd been drinking a little bit. Probably met up with his girlfriend on the way out to give the address. But bottom line is, the Democrats. What you saw, and I'm going to come back to the State of the Union address, because
Me too.
Trump absolutely destroyed the Democrats with that State of the Union address. It cannot be said enough, whether you like Trump or not. If you're a Republican, you better be in his camp now, or he's going to destroy you too, because he laid it on the line. And he told our elected officials, you're going to get together. You're going to work under my presidency. It's time to roll up the sleeves. We're going to get to work, like Ronald Reagan did. We're going to get to, he's no Ronald Reagan, but he certainly has his own brand, his own way of doing things. As gruff as he might be, as big of an asshole as he might seem, in a lot of the things that he says, he does get results, and he is getting results. And it is showing with people. And here's the thing. Democrats cannot win elections when people think about this. I want this to really sink into people's heads.
I know where you're going.
Democrats cannot win elections when people feel good about themselves.
And when they're
people
successful.
are feeling inspired, when they have money in their pockets, when they're feeling successful, when they're feeling optimistic, Democrats lose elections. Republicans win elections. And that is what you're seeing in our country today. People are starting to shake their heads and go, hey, you know what? I'm not buying a lot of the bullshit that's coming out of here. Why? Really? Racist this, racist that. Every time Donald Trump breathes, he's a racist. BZ, and you may have seen this on my Facebook page. I got attacked on my Facebook page by a flaming liberal asshole that was accusing me of being a racist because I was promoting the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. On Martin Luther King Day. I'm sitting here going, what in the world?
They're that stupid.
I'm sitting here, are you kidding me? You're a white man. You don't understand what black people go. Really? And it's, you can't possibly understand. Well, you know what? You're right. And there's a lot of things I probably don't understand that a lot of black Americans go through, a lot of the struggles that you continue to go through today. But you know what? I can use the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. to understand so that I can help better your situation, that I can fight beside you so that we can bring jobs back to your community, so that we can bring better education opportunities, so that we can bring fathers back to your families, so that we can, get the gangs off of the streets, create new business opportunities, create an entrepreneurial economy in your neighborhoods, bring life back to your neighborhoods. That I understand. Those were the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. did not preach identity politics.
No.
He didn't preach woe is me. He didn't preach race baiting. He preached, you know what? Get up off your ass and do something about this. That's what he taught. And that goes against every damn thing that the Democrat Party stands for today, BZ.
They cannot afford for Donald Trump to be successful on any level for any reason at any time, because when he succeeds, they are diminished, and that's essentially what you just said. Now, having said that, we got about 10 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. I'd like to transition over to the DACA segment of the State of the Union, where essentially he said, you know what? Triple the numbers that Obama said. I'm willing to go to 1.8 million persons. At first blush, I was absolutely irate, and then I said, stop, back up, take a larger perspective and ask yourself a question. Is this purposeful? Is this Donald Trump trying to be Machiavellian in some fashion? And is it him trying to point to the Demorats? Because here's what I think actually happened, and I'm curious now really about your thoughts about this. 1.8 million dreamers that he's potentially set on a route to citizenship in up to 12 years, and that, Dan, that is not good enough for the Demorats? Are you kidding me?
Now let me tell you. Now let's put DACA in perspective and what it really is. Okay, of course these are folks. A lot of these folks are folks that came when they were children. They came to the country illegally with their parents. They were not born here, so they're not natural-born citizens. So they were not citizens. Now most of the people through the DACA program, okay, have been trying to find a path to citizenship. A lot of the now you have to understand the term dreamer was a phrase applied to this program by the Obama administration to make it more feel-goody, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll use the term dreamer for them, even though it was something applied by the Obama administration. The majority of these folks, okay, when they come here, they have been trying to find a pathway to citizenship, trying to become citizens, trying to work hard, put their kids in school, create business and stuff. A lot of these folks have joined and served in the United States military and have become citizens by joining the military. They have fought in our wars and stuff like that. Of course, it's still in our immigration program all the way around needs to be, there's a lot of good things there that need to be enforced. There's a lot of things that need to be tinkered with, but immigration has to, not just DACA, but everything needs to be addressed all the way around and updated. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do here. And I think I absolutely agree 100%. And we'll have different arguments and we can debate different things about. But he did not say put these people on amnesty. He said put them on a pathway to citizenship.
Yes,
now,
that's
a lot
correct.
of these folks are already on a pathway to citizenship, but he's talking about a lot of the ones that are not, but getting them. First of all, let's get them legal. Get them legal so that we don't send them back. The last thing, Donald Trump's being portrayed by the Democrat is some type of, heartless, cruel asshole that wants to separate fathers from their children, mothers from their children, send them back to places that they've never been before and stuff like that. That's not the case. What he's wanting to do is he's wanting to say, hey, this is a starting point. DACA is a starting point, because then after that, we have a whole lot of other illegals that we've got to deal with and get them legal somehow or get them out of the country. Let's face it. But he wants to start here. This is a starting point. So he throws out that olive branch. Let's start this program. Let's get it out. Let's get them on a pathway to citizenship. But the number one thing is to make sure they are in the country legally. Make sure that if they've had an overlap in their paperwork, that they get everything up to date. The ones that haven't done nothing, let's make sure that they're there. Because we want we want hard-working people coming to our country. We want people. We encourage people to immigrate to our country. That's what our country is all about. Are we a country of immigrants? You damn well bet we are. All the way back to the Mayflower, to the first explorers. We're a country of immigrants. So we want hard-working people that will come and become American citizens that will work in our country. Do we say give up your culture? No, that's not what we do. That's the worst thing you could do. We want you to embrace your culture. We want you to bring your culture with you and make your culture part of being America, because America is made up of so many diverse cultures, to bring it all together. But we want you to be willing to work for the American dream. We don't want to give you nothing. You have to be willing to work for it. If you've made it this far, you better damn well be willing to continue to work hard for it, and you will be rewarded for it. And that's the thing. But if you listen to the Democrats, they're saying, "Oh no, Donald Trump, he's saying, you know what? We want to eradicate all the illegal aliens. He wants to kill them all. He wants to do this or this. He wants to ship them all back to countries they don't even know exist." And that's not true.
No, it's a load of crap.
If you look at what's taken place as far, and I'm going to point this out, a lot of the immigration raids that you're seeing now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of the ICE operations that you are seeing take place right now, folks, these did not start under Donald Trump. Hold on a second. These did not start under Donald Trump. Now, have they increased in intensity? Yes, they have. Are they getting more of a focus? Yes, they are. But all of this immigration enforcement actually started under Barack Obama. Think about that for a second. But yet, Barack Obama wasn't getting lambasted for it. He did. Barack Obama actually got drugged to court a few times himself over some different things dealing with immigration, but not lambasted like Trump is getting. And a lot of these policies, a lot of the stuff that Trump is proposing were proposed by the Obama administration, just with a lot more common sense to it. Not a lot of feely-good stuff where we're going to give you a lot of stuff, but a lot of the stuff that makes sense. You know what? If you're willing to come here and work hard, be here legally, we want you. But you know what? If you're committing crimes, if you're putting American citizens in danger, you're putting other immigrants in danger, we don't want you, because we do not want people here raping people, killing our children, stealing from people. Because here's the thing. Illegal aliens steal from other immigrants first.
Yes, they
do. Think about that. The crime starts in their own neighborhoods first, starts in their own communities first, and then works out. So they're committing those crimes against their own communities first. So they're very dangerous in there. So we want to make sure that we get all of the criminals out of here, all the dangerous people out of here. But that stuff didn't start with Donald Trump. Now it's underway on steroids under Trump, but it actually started under Barack Obama.
ICE, isn't it interesting that ICE has now decided, the current assistant director, until they get a full-time director installed, has said that because of sanctuary state status in California, we have the authority, and we're going to, because if for no other reason than officer safety, we used to be able to go into your jails and collect our people with detentions and detainers, and now you're forcing us to go out and put our officers more in jeopardy, state of California and other sanctuary states. And now they've decided that they're going to go into courts and snag people out of courts. And I say to that, that's abso-damn-lutely brilliant. We got 2 minutes left before the bottom of the hour break. We'll continue with this for another 2 minutes. When we come back from the break, Dan Butcher, what I'd like to do then is start the discussion about the memo, about tomorrow, about the dossier, about the government, about the FBI, about Wray, about Comey, about DOJ, and where this, in fact, may be leading. I have a few thoughts about this. As I said, I used to work for the FBI and then the U.S. Marshal, and then I came to my senses. So I have some insight on this, and I still have contacts in the FBI. It's an organization that's been turned upside down. And if there's one thing that I can tell you, and I hate to say that I'm going to put it in terms of that I can assure you, is Christopher Wray is not helping. And it's not getting better under Christopher Wray. And how sad is that? Folks, we're going to come right back, take a break. We've been talking to Dan Butcher, and we'll talk to Dan right after this.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it
again. Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just like the last question where they cut a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right. Oh,
God. Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the last segment in BZ's Bloviating Zeppelins, That's Moi, Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show live and direct on the SHR Media Network. We're at shrmedia.com, and we've been talking for the entire show up to this point with Dan Butcher, a media mogul from Texas, has his own website. We'll go into all that stuff before Dan goes away. We've been talking about the State of the Union, Donald Trump, all sorts of things about that. A couple of articles that I read. Now we're going to transition over in the last segment to this memo that's allegedly coming out tomorrow. And it has, essentially, I can think of no other phrase to use than it apparently has leftists, Demorats, and American Media Maggots all shitting Twinkies simultaneously. Dan, can you think of a reason why that might be?
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of things to watch for, with the release tomorrow of this. First of all,
it's going to be entertaining.
People have to remember that, first of all, if you don't know what this memo is about, this memo is based in part on the alleged FISA application to extend surveillance against former Trump advisor Carter Page. The memo, according to people that have seen it, the memo suggests that the now infamous Steele dossier, which alleges ties between Trump and Russia, was used as evidence to obtain the extension. So, some things to watch for. First of all, was the Steele dossier the only source for the FISA application?
Right.
Of course, the other big one is, and I think what people are really looking for, this is what the big controversy is the FBI's methods. Did they hide who funded the dossier? What did they know, when, where, and how, and stuff like that? Is this going to be the end-all? No, it's not. Will it open some doors and lead the way to some other things? Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
Now, another interesting thing to watch tomorrow when this is released, and this is coming out now, that there is some speculation. You mentioned FBI Director Christopher Wray. There is some speculation that if the Nunes memo is released tomorrow, that he will resign.
He might resign.
He is
yes.
extremely frustrated and butting heads with the president. So Donald Trump, by noon tomorrow afternoon might be looking for a new FBI director as well.
This is my visual. If you're watching on Facebook Live right now, I have a visual for Christopher Wray, and it looks something like this. And so I say to Christopher Wray, if you're going to be that puerile, sir, if you're going to be that jejune and stupid, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. As I was saying, the FBI is in chaos right now. And I must consistently emphasize, as you have already done, Dan Butcher, there is a vast chasm and a vast difference between the line-level agents at the FBI and the line-level employees at the DOJ, as opposed to mid-management and upper management at both organizations. And you cannot confuse the two, because the FBI, the bulk of FBI agents, are sick to death to see their agency, the FBI, dragged through the mud and the chaos and the blood and the beer of all the crap that James Comey, the megalomaniac himself, all 6'8" of him, insisted be done. Let me throw this out to you, Dan. I found an article by Jim Jordan, and when I kind of tick these off to you, because he came up with a list that, oh my God, does this ever make sense? A list of 18 questions that should be asked of the FBI and the DOJ in terms of corruption and everything that's been going on overall. And I'm going to go to them in order. And why isn't everyone asking these questions, especially when I get through? And you'll understand. Number one, did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, author of the dossier? 2, was the dossier the basis for securing FISA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants to spy on Americans? And why won't the FBI show Congress the FISA application? Holy crap, that's the crux of the biscuit right there. Number 3, when did the FBI get the complete dossier? Who gave it to them? Was it dossier author Christopher Steele? Was it Fusion GPS? Was it Clinton campaign or the DNC? Or was it Senator John McCain's staffer? And John McCain said he did that himself to the FBI. Number 4, did the FBI validate and corroborate the dossier? 5, did Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, or Bruce Orr work on the FISA application? Holy crap. 6, why and how often did the Department of Justice lawyer Bruce Orr meet with dossier author Christopher Steele during the 2016 campaign? Number 7, why did DOJ lawyer Bruce Orr meet with Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson after the election? To get their story straight after their candidate Hillary Clinton lost, perhaps, or to double down and plan how they were going to go after President-elect Donald Trump? Number 8, when and how did the FBI learn DOJ lawyer Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie Orr, worked directly for Fusion GPS? And what exactly was Nellie Orr's role in putting together the dossier? 9, why did the FBI release text messages between Peter Strzok, Lisa Page? Normally, an ongoing investigation is reason not to make any sort of that information public. 10, why did the FBI release only 375 of 10,000 text messages? Were they the best? Were they the worst? Or part of a broader strategy to focus attention away from something else? And when can Americans see the other 96% of the texts? Number 11, why did Lisa Page leave special counsel Robert Mueller's probe 2 weeks before Peter Strzok? This was 2 weeks before FBI and special counsel even knew about the texts. 12, why did the intelligence community wait 2 months after the election to brief President-elect Trump on the dossier? That was January 6th of 2017, by the way. Why was former FBI Director James Comey selected to do the briefing? Number 13, was the briefing done to legitimize the dossier? And who leaked the fact the briefing was about the dossier itself? 14, the New York Times reported that George Papadopoulos' loose lips were a catalyst in launching the Russia investigation. Was President-elect Trump briefed on this? 15, why did Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson meet with Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya before and after her meeting with Donald Trump Jr.? 16, why was FBI General Counsel Jim Baker reassigned shortly ago? Was he the source for the first story on the dossier by David Corn on October 31st of 2016? Or was that leak someone else at the FBI? 17, why did the FBI stonewall Congress for months before agreeing at the last minute to hand over the Trump-Russia probe documents to the House Intelligence Committee? And finally, number 18, why would Senator Chuck Schumer, leader of the Demorat Party, publicly warn President-elect Trump on January 3rd of 2017 that when you mess with the intel community, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you? How have we heard all of these questions aligned in a row? And the answer is we haven't. They're the most logical questions I can possibly think of, and that's why I read them for you, Dan.
Let's see, 18 minutes left in the show. Where to start with all of these?
Yeah.
Let me sum this up. And I brought this up when I was on Sackheads a couple of weeks ago. This has more to do with coming back to the this is all going to come back to the dossier. This is all going to come back to the Democrats, the Obama administration, the Clinton campaign, trying to discredit Donald Trump, trying to derail his campaign, and then trying to damage him as he took office as president of the United States. And let me kind of lead that direction, because a lot of these 45 seconds per question, Dave. I can't. But let me kind of sum all this up and where I think this is going to lead, because I think the Russian collusion and stuff like that, I think that's a sideshow.
It is
to the real thing here, because you have to remember it was the Obama administration that ordered surveillance on the Trump campaign, on Trump Plaza, on Donald Trump himself. Okay, who was controlling the DNC at the time? It was not the Democratic Party themselves. It was Hillary Clinton. The campaign. So let's just say Hillary Clinton was controlling the DNC, working directly with the White House, and all of this comes back to and starts with the tarmac meeting between a certain attorney general and Bill Clinton in an airplane. And so I think you see where this is all leading. And I think that's what it's all going to lead to eventually. It's not Russian collusion. It was the collusion against Donald Trump. And that's what all the dossier has to do with. I think this is what this memo is going to start to open the door. And then it comes to James Comey. People ask, well, what's Comey saying in this? You have to remember that at the time, Comey was working at the direction of the Obama administration. He was working for Barack Obama before he went to work for Donald Trump. So, and who was working directly with the White House, with the Democrat Party? Hillary Clinton. Who was Comey's boss before? Think about that for a second. So It all comes back. So where you're looking at the actions by the FBI and what was having to do there, that all starts, I think, comes from, and I firmly believe this, and once again, no facts, no nothing, no conspiracy, just kind of my own intuition kind of speaking here, not wishful thinking, but I think all of this starts with the direction of Hillary Clinton herself saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, working with Barack Obama, with the surveillance of Donald Trump, with the now infamous Tarmac meeting, and then coming and giving the directions to James Comey and the FBI to suppress evidence on investigating Hillary Clinton. Think about that, to suppress evidence and kind of stall any type of investigations coming from the Justice Department and possibly investigating Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation. So let's say it goes further than that. Sexual abuses think about this, with all the sexual abuse stuff that has and abuse of women, attacks on women, and investigating Bill Clinton for that. Stop and think about that. Bill Clinton has gone unscathed through this. Hillary Clinton actually covered up for a campaign staffer during the campaign that was accused of sexual harassing another campaign staffer. And Hillary, of course, has a long history of demonizing women that went after Bill for the same thing. Demonized one of her own campaign staffers, a woman who was accusing a male staffer of sexually harassing her. So it goes further. It's all to cover up different activities here and here and here. It has nothing to do with Russian collusion. It all has to do with collusion to cover up and protect Hillary Clinton during the campaign, to protect Hillary Clinton in the event that she was elected president of the United States. And in an effort to discredit Donald Trump during the campaign, to discredit him coming into the office. We know there's plants still in the government that are trying to work against Donald Trump. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Protect the legacy of Barack Obama.
The point of it all was to get Hillary Clinton elected. It was
Bingo.
It was due her, and she is individually responsible for the country being in the state that it is. I always say do what I call the logical extension, Beezy's reversal axiom. And okay, if the memo incriminated Republicans in a massive spying scandal, the media would be both promoting it and celebrating it. They're a bunch of absolute incredible hacks. The Demorats themselves, they're now the party of anti-civil liberties, a police state, and they're the ones who will, I believe fervently, it will turn out, and I can think of no other way to place this. This was a soft coup on the government of America by the government of America. One administration aiming at a potential second administration. All started when the Obama administration, in terms of the impetus being to get Hillary Clinton elected, attempted to do Oppo research and hand it over to her so that she could slaughter Donald John Trump, and he didn't play properly. He won, and then now in retrospect, it's the tip of the iceberg, and all of this will be revealed. It goes through every level, every strata. At minimum, it's a RICO. At most, it's treason. And I truly do think People need to go to prison. Now, will people, in fact, go to prison? No. Hillary Clinton et al. Were essentially responsible for killing 4 people in Benghazi. And that doesn't make any difference at all. And so we shan't think about what happened in the past. The Demorats have historical Alzheimer's purposefully and can only see what's in front of them today. Ask yourself the question, folks, why is it that leftists, Demorats, the FBI, the DOJ, Christopher Wray, James Comey, all of them do not want you to see or understand or have the memo revealed in the slightest? Wait, I thought they were the party of transparency, and that the American Media Maggots were the party of the fifth estate. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Dan. Is it fourth estate or fifth estate? They're the people of revelations and transparency, and they're the last people that want transparency.
Well, I remember, you have to remember. Remember, we just had the most transparent, scandal-free administration in the history of our country. Barack Obama. And Hillary is, his best friend. I mean, come on, it comes down to, once again, they're trying to, they were in full protection mode.
Yes.
So they latched on to something. You have to remember stop and think. Remember, when they found out, people were appalled and shocked when they found out that the Trump campaign, in particular that Donald Jr. was personally heading up the campaign research against Hillary Clinton. They were appalled. How dare you try to meet with people and dig up dirt?
Oppo research.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
the media was appalled.
Yeah, in the history of history, no one's ever done that before. Why is it that the Trumps, they're the first persons to even think about this? Oh,
yes.
My God, they're so damn creative, Dan. Jesus.
But yet, what is the dossier all about? Digging up dirt on Donald Trump.
Yep.
That's all it's about.
It's domestic
That's
surveillance.
All elections are about on the national level is digging up dirt on your opponent and trying to, people think that you're the better candidate. Let's face it. Politics is a full-blood combat sport, especially on the national level. And sometimes things aren't very nice between candidates, and they certainly weren't between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And, folks, let me tell you something. Hillary Clinton, now I fully believe that, Hillary Clinton, I would say that Hillary Clinton would have made a deal with the devil himself, but even the devil is scared of Hillary Clinton. So there were a lot of other people making deals with Hillary Clinton, thinking, hey, you know what? If we come along with Hillary, we'll be able to do this and this and bring everybody back into power. We'll have a long, we'll be able to relive the golden years of the Democrat Party during the Bill Clinton administration. Bottom line is that there's a lot of they do not. Here it is. Especially heading into this is what if you think that this is a fight, the main fight over this memo being released is the effect that it'll have on the 2018 midterms, because the last thing they want is anything that's going to dig up and expose the illegal activities of Hillary Clinton, of James Comey, of the Democrat Party. Even though there's a lot of this stuff already out there, you just have to really keep reporting on it, keep going after it, and especially tarnish the legacy of Barack Obama. And I want to bring this up because there was a lot of criticism there's a lot of criticism of Donald Trump right now about how confident he is. Well, that confidence makes him a racist, makes him a danger to our country. Guess what? Barack, you want to compare the confidence being of Donald Trump versus the confidence, the cockiness of Barack Obama. Really? But yet Barack Obama wasn't called out for it like this.
No, of course
not.
not.
I think Barack Obama did more damage to race relations in this country than Donald Trump could possibly ever do by maybe tweeting too much. But bottom line is that this memo, it's not the end all, as Dave brought up earlier in the chat room. It's not the second coming of Jesus Christ.
But it's
opening. What it is,
it's opening a door. It's opening a
key
door
to open up the door.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that will lead to another hallway with another door and another door and another series of doors, and finally you're gonna have a bulk of these things open. You have to ask yourself again. We got 2 more minutes before the end of the show. You have to ask yourself again, do you really think that the Demorats, the leftists, the American Media Maggots, do you think they're all encountering the FBI, the DOJ, I forgot to include them as well. Do you think they're all encountering their own little personal bouts of pants-shitting hysteria because this memo is inconsequential? And you know the answer to that one, don't you? Of course you do.
You know what? I think Dave just summed it up all of this very well in the chat room. Dave said the midterms will be harder to win if they don't have as many shadow government assets. Think about that. I think Dave summed it up very well.
You know, on the other hand, how sad is that? You can say a lot of things about what's been happening. Yep. I can think of no other way to express this, and I'm not God's gift to intelligence, but even despite that, I was saying late last year it's going to turn out that the dossier was responsible for being submitted as evidence and credence on an affidavit
Bingo.
Submitted to a FISA court, and that Judge Contreras recused himself because I suspect it will turn out that he was one of the judges that signed that FISA request because, as we recall, the FBI went first before a FISA court, grand jury, ham sandwich, hello, table for two, and didn't get that accepted. They went back with the dossier information, and then they got their warrant after submitting a second affidavit. Dan Butcher, tell folks where you can be found and where you can be read.
Well, you can find everything, High Plains Talk Radio, High Plains Pundit TV, everything at highplainspundit.com. That's where you can find me. And BZ, man, it is, I can't believe we're already done.
I swear to God.
2 hours. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, it is always a pleasure. 2 hours with you. I start and I look at my watch and I go, okay, it's time to put a break here, time to put a break there. Oh, Christ, the show has ended. Oh, my God. Dan Butcher of High Plains Media, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you here every time, and thank you so kindly. As per normal, great discretion, great insight from your media background, and I thank you ever so kindly from the bottom of my little clotted heart.
You bet. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
All righty, folks, take care. That was it. That concludes our 2-hour show, which went zip. Absolutely incredibly quick. Oh, my God. 2 hours done and gone. But then again, oh, wait. If you think things got stupid, silly, and fattening, wait until tomorrow. This time tomorrow, can you imagine the hubbub that's going to be going around in the media world if what I think is going to happen happens?
Monsieur has been
We'll meet again. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. You want to contact me, you can find me on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. I am on Twitter at BZEP, B-Z-E-P, and you can send me a crap mail if you want to, like all the leftists do, bz@shrmedia.com. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also, of course, Pratt & Whitney Engines, thrust, you can trust. Thanks, of course, to my personal KC-135 Ketel One vodka contingent, with whom, and refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. You can bank on that. Thank you ever so kindly to Dan Butcher. Thank you to listening live. Thank you for listening in podcast. Thank you for taking the time to be involved in chat. Have a great weekend. Tomorrow, things might go Vesuvius just a little bit. Folks, God bless. Take care. Be safe. Have a great weekend. See you Tuesday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.